The Centauri spaceport buzzed with travelers from 100 worlds, but Elian noticed only his cold coffee. 3 years mapping the outer colonies had left him numb, his passion for exploration fading like distant stars. The corporate surveying job paid well but hollowed something inside him with each new planet cataloged merely for resources. "Mind if I join you?" Elian looked up. Standing beside his table was the most striking woman he'd ever seen. Her skin was a soft shade of purple that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light. Her eyes, large and expressive, contained flecks of silver that caught the light like tiny stars. "Please," he managed, gesturing to the empty chair. "I'm Nira," she said, her voice carrying a melodic quality that hinted at her non-human origin. "Your table has the best view of the departures," Elian glanced toward the massive viewport where ships of all sizes prepared for their journeys across the stars. He hadn't even noticed the view before she mentioned it. "I'm Elian," he replied, suddenly conscious of his rumpled surveyor's uniform. "Just finished a long assignment." Nira tilted her head slightly, studying him with those remarkable silver-flecked eyes. "You don't look happy about it." Her directness surprised him. On Earth, strangers maintained polite distances, but there was something about her gentle observation that disarmed him. "That obvious?" He smiled for what felt like the first time in months. To someone watching, yes. Her lips curved in a smile that transformed her face. "Your eyes keep drifting to the stars, but your shoulders carry weight." Elian found himself telling this purple-skinned stranger things he hadn't admitted even to himself. About how mapping worlds had become mechanical, how the wonder had disappeared, how his apartment back on Earth felt less like home with each return. Nira listened, really listened, in a way no one had in years. When she spoke of her homeworld, Lysithea, her hands moved gracefully, painting pictures of floating gardens and crystal forests. "Why are you at the spaceport?" he finally asked. "I studied different cultures." Her delicate fingers traced patterns on the table. "My people are relatively new to the Galactic Alliance. I document our interactions, a xenanthropologist." Her laughter was like wind chimes. "Something similar, yes, though we call it soul walking in my language." As the station's artificial day cycle dimmed toward evening, they continued talking. Around them, travelers rushed to and from destinations. But in their small corner of the universe, time seemed suspended. When Nira finally stood to leave, Elian felt a strange panic rise in his chest. "Will you be here tomorrow?" he asked, surprising himself. She paused, those remarkable eyes studying his face. "I'll be at the observation deck at sunrise." Then she smiled again. A gentle curve of her lips that somehow promised more than words could say, as he watched her walk away, her slender purple form graceful among the crowd. Elian realized his heart was beating faster than it had in years. For the first time since he could remember, he was looking forward to tomorrow. Elian arrived at the observation deck 30 minutes before the station's artificial sunrise. His hands fidgeted with the small gift he had purchased from a vendor, a crystal that changed colors with emotions, popular among travelers as souvenirs. Would she find it childish? Would she even show up? The deck was nearly empty this early, just a few maintenance workers and a couple of pilots checking flight paths. When the first golden light began to filter through the massive viewport simulating dawn, Elian felt his hopes dimming. "You're early," came that melodic voice behind him. Elian turned to see Nira, her purple skin seeming deeper in the golden light, wearing what appeared to be traditional clothing, flowing fabric in shades of blue and silver that complemented her form perfectly. "I didn't want to miss it," he admitted. Suddenly shy, they stood side by side watching the artificial sunrise, a technological marvel that still paled compared to the woman beside him. "On Lysithea, we have 3 suns," Nira said softly. "The mornings are a symphony of color." "I'd like to see that someday," Elian replied, letting it more than any words he'd spoken in years. When he offered her the crystal, her eyes widened in surprise. "You know what this is?" she asked, her slender fingers carefully taking it. "Just a souvenir. I thought on my world. These are given when someone wishes to learn another's heart. The crystal glowed a soft pink in her palm. "It's a serious gesture." Elian felt heat rise to his cheeks. "I didn't know." "I can take it back if Naira closed her fingers around it." "No. I accept it with its meaning." Even if you didn't intend it, something unspoken passed between them in that moment, a bridge forming between two vastly different worlds. Over the next week, they met daily. Naira showed him how her people expressed themselves through subtle gestures. He taught her Earth customs, laughing when she found handshakes, strangely intimate yet formally distant. Cultural misunderstandings created moments of both humor and unexpected intimacy. When Elian reached to brush a stray hair from her face, a casual gesture to him Naira's skin flushed a deeper purple. And she explained that touching someone's face on Lysithea was reserved for family and lovers. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "Don't be," she whispered. "I'm not." Their time together existed in a bubble, separate from their lives and responsibilities. Elian postponed his return flight to Earth twice. Naira extended her cultural research mission. On their 8th day together, walking through the station's arboretum, their hands brushed accidentally. Neither pulled away. Elian felt the warmth of her skin against his, how her fingers naturally intertwined with his own. "In my culture," she said softly, "this means trust." "In mine too," he replied, gently squeezing her hand. That evening, watching distant stars from a quiet corner of the observation deck, Naira turned to him. "My research concludes tomorrow. I must return to Lysithea." The words hit Elian like a physical blow. "So soon? Unless... ... double quotes, her silver-flecked eyes searched his face. "Unless you wish to see 3 suns rise over the crystal forests? You're inviting me to your world?" Naira nodded, a mixture of hope and uncertainty in her expression. "My people are cautious with outsiders, but I would show you my home, if you desire to see it." Elian thought of Earth, of his empty apartment and meaningless job. Then he looked at Naira, whose very presence had awakened something he thought long dead within him. "Yes," he said simply. "I would follow you across the stars." The journey to Lysithea took 4 days in hyperspace. Elian spent hours with Naira in the observation lounge of the interstellar liner, learning basic phrases in her language. The words felt strange on his tongue, with sounds humans rarely made, but Naira's delighted his. Efforts made every stumble worthwhile. "Your accent is improving," she said with that musical laugh that had become his favorite. "Sound. I still sound like I'm gargling stones," he replied, but smiled at her encouragement. As they approached Lysithea, Naira grew both excited and nervous. "My family knows I'm bringing a human visitor. It's uncommon, but not forbidden." "Are you worried about how they'll react to me?" Elian asked. She took his hand, her slender purple fingers warm against his skin. "They will see what I see in you, given time." Lysithea emerged from the darkness like a jewel world of deep blues and violets, with swirling white clouds and 2 small moons orbiting closely. The spaceport was built into the side of a mountain, its architecture flowing with the natural rock in a way that made Earth's utilitarian design seem crude by comparison. The moment they stepped off the ship, Elian felt the different slightly lower gravity, air richer in oxygen, and scents he couldn't identify but found intoxicating. Naira watched his face, clearly pleased by his wonder. "This is just the beginning," she promised. A sleek transport took them from the spaceport to Naira's family home in a city whose name Elian couldn't pronounce. The buildings seemed to grow from the landscape rather than impose upon it, with windows that adjusted their transparency to maximize natural light while maintaining privacy. Naira's family home was situated near a vast garden of plants that moved like underwater creatures despite the absence of breeze. Her parents, Thalon and Miria, greeted them with formal gestures that Naira had taught him during their journey. "We welcome you." "Elian of Earth," Thalon said, his voice deeper than his daughter's but with the same musical quality. His skin was a darker purple, with markings along his temples that signified his family lineage. Miria studied Elian, with eyes identical to Neera's. "You honor our home with your presence," she said carefully. though Elian could sense her reservation that evening. Dining on food that tasted like nothing he'd experienced before, Elian struggled with the silverware that required 3 hands to use properly. Naira discreetly showed him simplified techniques, their knees touching under the table in a way that sent warmth throughout his body. Later, Naira took him to the roof garden to witness Lysithia's night sky. 3 moons created a complex dance of light and shadow across the landscape. The stars looked different from this part of the galaxy, constellations unfamiliar, yet beautiful. "Tomorrow, you'll see the triple sunrise," she promised. Standing close enough that he could feel the warmth of her body. "Naira," he said softly, "I need to ask you something." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "What am I to you? A research subject? A friend? Something more?" She turned to face him, her expression serious. "On Lysithia, we believe souls recognize each other across lifetimes, across species even." She placed her hand over his heart. "From the moment I saw you in that spaceport cafe, something here called to me." Ilian covered her hand with his own. "I felt it too, but I thought I was imagining things. Humans don't typically believe in soul connections. Perhaps they should," she whispered, moving closer. When their lips finally met under the alien stars, Elian felt like he'd been wandering his whole life, only to finally find his way home in the arms of someone from a world he hadn't known existed a month ago. The 3 suns of Lysithia rose in sequence, painting the sky in colors Elian had no names for. Naira stood beside him on the observation platform, her purple skin glowing in the dawn light. 2 weeks had passed since their arrival, and every day had brought new wonders. "Do you miss Earth?" Naira asked, her silver-flecked eyes searching his face. Elian considered the question honestly. "I miss certain foods, some music. But Earth never felt like this." He gestured to the crystal forest below, where trees made of translucent minerals caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. "I never felt like this." Their relationship had deepened in ways Elian hadn't thought possible. Naira had shown him her world with the same care with which she'd guided him through her customs, patiently, lovingly. Each night, they explored the growing intimacy between them, discovering how their bodies, though different, fit together perfectly. But not everyone on Lysithia welcomed their connection. That afternoon, as they attended a gathering at the Central Academy, where Naira was scheduled to present her research on human cultures, Elian sat in the audience, proud to see her addressing the assembled scholars with confidence and insight. During the subsequent reception, an older Lysithian approached them, skin a deeper purple than most, marked with the elaborate patterning of high social standing. "Naira Valoran," he said, his musical voice carrying none of the warmth Elian had come to associate with her people. "Your research was ... interesting." "Thank you, Elder Kozin," Naira replied, lowering her eyes respectfully. The elder's gaze shifted to Elian, assessing him coldly. "Though I question the objectivity of your findings, given your obvious attachment to your subject." Elian felt Naira tense beside him. "My personal experiences have enhanced my understanding, not compromised it," she responded, her voice steady. "Perhaps," Elder Kozin said. "But the Council of Sciences is concerned about maintaining proper distance in research, particularly when it involves species whose evolutionary path is so divergent from our own." After he departed, Naira's composure cracked. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Some of the older generation fear too much integration with other species will dilute our culture." That evening, Naira received a formal notification. The council had suspended her research funding, citing methodological concerns. "This is about us, isn't it?" Elian asked as she stared at the message. "Yes," she admitted, though they would never state it directly. Later that night, a message arrived from Earthlian's employer, demanding his immediate return or termination of his contract. Someone had been monitoring his extended absence. "We're being pushed apart from both sides," Elian realized, the weight of 2 worlds suddenly pressing down on them. They lay together that night, limbs intertwined, planning their future in whispers. Morning found them on Nira's family's balcony, watching the triple sunrise one more time. "Are you certain?" Naira asked, her fingers tracing patterns on his palm. Elian nodded. "I've never been more certain of anything. Thalon and Myria joined them for breakfast, sensing the tension in the air. "We've made a decision," Naira announced, taking Elian's hand. "We're leaving Lysithea." Myria's face fell. "Because of the council?" "Because we want to forge our own path," Naira replied. Together, Thalon studied them thoughtfully. There's an old Lysithian saying, "Stars separated by galaxies still share the same light." "What does it mean?" Elian asked. "It means," Myria said softly, "that true connections transcend distance and difference." She reached across the table, taking her daughter's free hand. "And that family remains family, no matter how far you travel." As they prepared to depart, Elian realized that in losing two worlds, they were about to find a new one they would build together. The border colony of Nova Haven existed in the space between worlds, literally and figuratively. Established on a habitable moon, orbiting a gas giant, it had become home to those who didn't quite fit anywhere else. Refugees, explorers, dreamers, and increasingly interspecies couples seeking acceptance. 6 months after leaving Lysithea, Elian and Naira had created a life there that neither could have imagined before. Their small dwelling overlooked an artificial lake where the water glowed gently at night from bioluminescent organisms. Elian had found work as a consultant for independent survey teams, while Naira had established herself as a cultural liaison for newly arriving settlers. "You've got that look again," Naira said one evening as they sat on their porch watching the gas giant rise in the sky, its massive rings creating a spectacular light show. "What look?" Elian asked, smiling as she curled against him, her purple skin warm against his. "The one where you're wondering if I regret leaving everything behind?" She traced the line of his jaw with gentle fingers. "I don't, not for a moment." Elian pulled her closer. "I was actually thinking about the first day we met, how one random encounter changed everything." Naira laughed softly. "It wasn't random. I'd been watching you for 3 days before I approached your table." "What?" Elian pulled back to look at her face, surprised. Her silver-flecked eyes sparkled with mischief. "Did you think it was coincidence that a xenanthropologist just happened to sit with the most interesting human in the spaceport? You never told me that?" "You never asked," she teased, then grew serious. "I saw something in UA loneliness that matched my own, a searching. I almost didn't speak to you. I'm glad you did." He kissed her gently, still marveling at how perfectly they fit together, despite their different worlds. That night, as they lay together in the darkness, Naira placed Elian's hand on her abdomen. "I went to the medical center today," she said softly. Elian felt his heart skip, and the genetic compatibility treatments worked. Her voice contained wonder and nervousness in equal measure. "We're going to have a child." Elian, the first human Lysithian child. The news washed over him like a wave joy. Fear, amazement. "How? I thought the doctors said the chances were almost impossible." "Almost," she emphasized. "But apparently, we're exceptional in more ways than one." In the weeks that followed, they prepared for a future neither of their species had experienced before. Doctors from both worlds consulted on the pregnancy. Fascinated by what the genetic profiles revealed, a perfect blending of two evolutionary paths that should have been incompatible. Word spread beyond Nova Haven. Researchers requested interviews. Journalists sought exclusive stories. Elian and Naira declined them all, protecting their privacy and their miracle. One evening, a message arrived from Lysithea, from Elder Kozin himself. With formal, careful language, he acknowledged that perhaps his views had been limited. The Council of Sciences was establishing a new research initiative on interspecies genetics and cultural integration. They wanted Naira to lead it. "Would you go back?" Elian asked after she showed him the message. Naira placed her hands on her growing belly. "Our future isn't behind us. It's here and wherever we choose to go next together, on a perfect autumn day." Their daughter was born, her skin a softer purple than her mother's, her eyes a blend of human and Lysithian, with tiny flecks of silver that caught the light. They named her Nova, after their new home, and the Latin word for new star. As she grew, she became living proof of what her parents had always believed, that differences could become strengths, that barriers could be bridges, that love transcended biology and culture and space itself. Years later, when Nova asked how her parents met, they always told her the same story, about a chance encounter in a spaceport cafe, about a glance, a smile, and how sometimes, without a single word, everything can change. Research Sonnet 3.7.